Okay, so 3 parts to the anatomy of the perfect workout. The first one is smart volume, not junk volume. And it's easy to fall into this trap where more is better, but more isn't better after a certain point. So we try to put, because I'll highlight this part. The most important part, I'll just mute that, is progressive overload. So that's having enough energy to focus on the hard reps that matter at the end of the set. Like that's where growth building is happening. When you're at 8 reps and you feel like you only got a couple more in you and you squeeze out one more, that's the most accomplished you'll feel. And that's where most of your results come from. Okay. So we do have numbers in terms of sets per week and total rep ranges, but these aren't necessarily hard results. Okay. So I like to think of it as at least 6 to 8 hard sets per muscle group. So for your legs, that might be 3 sets of squats and 3 sets of single leg lunges. If you do that for the week, you're hitting that threshold, right? And it's usually a leg day or whatever, how we set it up. So keep that in mind that if you miss a workout, you're probably under this threshold and we're not optimized, right? So trying to get those 3 in minimum. And some people, we spread that over 4. More is better to a point, but there's a point in diminishing returns pretty quickly. Okay, so the idea is not to crawl out of the gym. Get more capable without crushing yourself. Next up is just for time efficiency, really, is supersets. And generally, especially if someone's lifting pretty heavy, I like to make sure it's opposing muscle groups like chest and back, so they don't compete with each other. You're not pre-fatigued and then you're trying to do more chest work. That said, there's a caveat there. If someone's training lighter or we know they're not quite pushing themselves, it actually has a benefit to do 2 back-to-back of the same muscle group, I find, because they're pre-exhausted and then they really push to that point of failure in the second exercise. But in general, I'm trying to pair up exercises back-to-back. That saves time. That doesn't, diminish performance in the second exercise. And also there's some real strong evidence that rest periods are really critical. So you're getting active rest in that muscle group by training the other one. Okay. And that's the problem with, circuit-based workouts, just have you jumping back and forth with no recovery time. You're really shooting yourself in the foot from this perspective. Okay. No questions so far? I'll have you chime in at the end, Abby. Anything you want to add to it. And then lastly, we like to do this, our signature finishers, just to certainly because people really favor core work, even though it doesn't play a massive role in your abs. I think having a stronger core is good for everyday life. So we put it in there for that reason. And there's a conditioning element. I think a lot of you guys know that healthy heart requires us to push it at times, and that's where these come in. You might get a small bump in your VO2 max over time. Conditioning improves, and we know we can do hard things, and the more we can challenge you guys, the more adaptable you become to that, and everything gets easier. Okay, so not a hard rule there as well. Not every workout will have that, but in general, that might be planks with squats, something that doubles up as cardio resistance training and conditioning. And that's it. Abby, anything else there that you tend to favor when you program? Stop sharing this.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I echo everything that you've said. Just like I talked to you last week, is that I am looking at some of the programs a little bit more in depth and putting some better instructional videos and kind of revamping things a little bit. Just evolvement over time. So we're kind of, I'm working on that, freshening things up. But I mean, none of the principles ever change for any of this really. If you want to get results in your workouts, there has to be some type and make them effective. There has to be some type of progression every week. So this is non-negotiable, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, this really is how you get results. Your body adapts to stress. So to build muscle and to get stronger, we have to gradually increase the challenge every week. All right. Maybe that means more weight. Maybe that means more reps. Maybe that means slowing down your tempo and working on form. So and if you're just going to your workouts and everything is the same from week 1 to 4, and like I said, it's not black and white. We do have clients that sometimes do 6 weeks of the program, or we have some workouts that are a little bit longer than 30 minutes. And if it calls for that, or if a gym program, so it's not like every single person is doing the same thing, but we're just majority of the training plans that we do, we want to keep within that 30-minute time slot, the 25 to 40 minutes. But we have to be progressing in some form or fashion. So if your numbers, your reps, and everything looks the same from week 1 to 4, I'm not saying you're wasting your time, but but we're not getting much benefit. And something is better than nothing when we start out, of course. Like we're not going to deny that. But I came up with this thing called Beat the App. So every week you should be looking at something in your workout or something in each exercise that you beat from the week before. Once again, that doesn't mean we have to increase our weight necessarily every single week. There are many ways to progress. So I want you to think to yourself, am I actually progressing? Week to week, or if you're doing your sets and by the end of the time or reps, you don't feel anything and it doesn't feel hard, then we're not working very hard in our workouts and we need to make probably some weight increases there. Okay. Form over weight, but we've got to be progressing in some form or fashion to get effective results. So that's just really what I wanted to add there.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. I just wrote a summary of that for those on the replay. I think that's a really helpful tool.
Yeah.
And in
I
some
think that
ways,
I think beat the app is something that will really stick with people that can stick with people from week to week as they go into their workouts. How am I going to beat the app
mm,
this week?
yeah, and the app really gamifies trying to set personal bests. We don't want you to chase big numbers every week after week, especially if form doesn't allow for it. But that should be something you're paying attention to.
Yeah.
Is okay, I did this exercise 6 months ago. I'm doing it for another 10 pounds heavier now with more reps. That's a
Yep.
sure sign of progression and that you're challenging yourself over time. Because it's not your grandma's circuit workout with the ankle weights and moving fast with the headband on. Forget the guy's name, Richard Simmons, right? I think that's it.
Yep.
Good intentions. He paved the way, but that's not how you get optimal results when it comes to tone, bone, muscle preservation.
Yep.
Awesome. Any questions on workouts in general? This is kind of the call. Go ahead, Diane. You're muted in two places, so I don't know which one you
Oh
want.
my God.
There we go.
You can hear me. Okay.
Yeah.
What was the point where it said no standing between exercises?
Oh, well, we're just trying to make sure you're moving, right? And sometimes you'll go to a commercial gym and someone's there for 90 minutes and half the time they're on their phone, they're chatting it up.
Oh,
They're just chilling between workouts.
oh,
Not to say you can't do that, but we're trying to make sure you're in and out. And there's no real reason for anything beyond enough recovery time to
got it.
perform the exercise. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That answer your question? Good. Anyone else have questions on? We got Jason. What's up?
Uh, Kettlebell dumbbell squat. I feel like I'm doing it, or deadlift. I feel like I'm doing it wrong, so I'm feeling a little bit of pain in my lower back. Can Abby go through this one? I think it's a form thing, and the fact that I've always had hip issues, maybe, and I think that's what the issue is.
Yeah, do we want to pull up a video, Abby, or actually demonstrate if you have?
Um,
We did that on the
well, if
first one.
I like the first thing I'm going to say is if anyone is having pain with a movement, I do highly, highly, highly encourage you to film yourself so that we can actually see how you're
Yeah.
doing it. That because I think I said this the last time I did it, is like I'm just guessing, and it may not actually be the reason your back hurts or etc. So that would be my first thing is I'd really love to see what your form looks like. And we did do the deadlift, I believe. Yeah, I mean, I'll go through it again, but we did do it in depth a few weeks or two ago or
Let's see if I can find
something.
that one.
But let me find, I can't remember if I put.
Yeah, and there's usually a couple real common errors. We
Yeah.
can probably identify, but weight's too far out in front of you is one. Maybe you want to swap out the kettlebell if you find you can't get it close enough to your legs. Sometimes a dumbbell is more easily aligned with your shin, but
Okay, I'll just I'll
yeah,
just do
okay.
it and I'll just do a demonstration.
Okay.
And Jason, you're using the kettlebell for the deadlift? Is that
Yeah, I am. I could probably film one at home. I just don't want to be that guy that films at the gym. I can't stand those freaking people for some reason. It drives me nuts.
well, I mean, you're not like flashing your abs and posting on Instagram, so
He might be actually. It's all
No,
glute.
no.
Your
I'm
glutes are
more of like
showing. We can't even see from the movement.
I can't stand those guys. That's why I like following that Joey Swole guy who just destroys them on
Oh, yeah.
Instagram.
well, the only reason I ask is because I just want to make sure I hold the dumbbell use it as a kettlebell per se, just to make sure that I'm so like usually nothing's black and white. When people have back pain with a deadlift, it's because the weight might be too far out. So always keeping it right, especially if it's a kettlebell. So pretend I have a kettlebell in my hand, we'll hold it like a kettlebell. Um, potentially, so the weight may be too far out, so you want to keep it as close as you can, like to the just dropping straight down. And also just making sure that those hips, are hinging back, but also, you potentially might be lifting with your back and not not your legs. Okay, so how we do that is we think about pushing away from the floor. So we're gonna push and use our feet and kind of make sure we sit, I kind of come back on the heels. Okay, so as I come down and then as I come up, really make sure that I'm, driving through, and I know you can't see my feet. But I can look like I'm doing a deadlift correctly, but if I'm loose and I'm not keeping my core tight and I'm not driving through the ground, if I'm really loose right here, I can feel it more in my back, but it looks like I'm doing it correctly. Does that make sense, Jason?
Yeah, no, it totally does. I might have a dumbbell at home downstairs. Actually, I'm gonna try to record it and send it over.
Yeah. Another thing is like maybe think about, well, that's more on a squat. I'm trying to think with a kettlebell. I would look at where the positioning is as far as how far out are you, how far in front is that kettlebell. Also, I know it doesn't seem like it, but if we're kind of extended up like this, let's tuck your chin a little bit to make our spine a little bit more neutral. So that might make a difference as well. Yeah, so a couple of those things might just be the difference in your, losing control with your low back.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, it's all in the hips, just like you back in the day at the Palomino Club, right? On the dance floor. Yeah, it's not a squat. You got it. That's a Winnipeg inside joke for sure. All
More
right.
of a scandal guy.
For my time. No, just kidding. Who's next? We've got a few lurkers in the bottom here without cameras on that might have questions. Or not. Hopefully we covered everything, Abby, from your perspective. I know it looks like you're really fine-tuning some of the programs in the back end.
Yep.
That's going to be valuable for everybody.
Yeah, there's just some of those videos, and actually that inside the app they're redoing some of those videos too. It's just I'd like to provide maybe a little bit more explanation for some of those movements, and I mean, so we're just, like I said, it's not something that'll happen overnight, everyone. So we're just trying to, kind of look at things. Does this video make sense? Does it offer, maybe some regressions or progressions? So yeah, I was gonna look up, let's see. Um, or I can just talk about this because this came up on a call yesterday I had with a newer client about push-ups. I don't think I've gone
Okay.
over
Yeah, that's a good one.
push-ups. So if you cannot do a standard push-up, please do not do push-ups on your knees. Okay. Push-ups on your knees, you just get really good at doing push-ups on your knees. All right. So we want to keep in line with that, with a standard push-up, positioning as best we can. So how we do that is elevation. Okay, so if you cannot do a standard push-up, then what you need to do is work either from a wall or from a bench, and elevate yourself and then slowly, gradually go down to the floor. But we're keeping, that neutral push-up position all the way down. So that's gonna get you stronger. It's gonna get you stronger in a push-up to do it from an elevation versus doing it on your knees. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, and one of the things that comes up early on is, oh, these workouts seem kind of repetitive, and that's the point. Okay, because I've been doing largely the same exercises for decades, because they're the ones that are proven to work, and you get better at them, you get more proficient in your form, but you get stronger. That's how you build muscle. That's how a diamond without pressure is a lump of coal. I think that's the explanation someone gave me once, and that stuck. So Abby, I'm sure you're the same, where you do mostly the same exercises. Obviously, we mix it up here and there, especially if someone plateaus, and we like to, for variety, every 4 weeks seems to be the right cadence to kind of give people a revamped look. But too frequent a changing, that whole muscle confusion lie that came out years ago with P90X, that leads people down the wrong path where they never actually make significant progress, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, 10, I've been doing 10x, the same 10 exercises, maybe throw a different one, here and there for 30 years. Maybe a little different variation. Instead of a, barbell deadlift, I'll do dumbbell deadlifts or, whatever. But, yeah, I mean, your body actually needs to adapt to movements to get stronger. So if we're constantly changing things, and it's just a very random exercises, new exercises all the time, you never get proficient at anything. So like I said, your body's not going to be able to adapt, adjust, or get stronger if there's no structure, there's no progression. And we're focused on results. If you want to go just sweat, I mean, you can come outside in Florida and just sweat, or you can, I mean, you can just sweat anytime. Like that's not going to essentially get you results. And it's hard also to track progress when you literally have no idea what's working because you're changing it up too frequently. So, although those, I mean, I don't know if you guys, I'm not going to hate on the boot camp style, I don't know if you guys have like the Orange Theories and all that in Canada. I'm not going to hate on them because I think they can serve a purpose, but it shouldn't be the at the top of the list as far as your training plan. That's just random stuff. Let's get sweaty and see our heart rate go up, and has cardiovascular benefits, has community benefits, and I'm not going to hate on that stuff. Better than nothing. But being intentional with your strength training and treating it that way is going to get you the best results.
Totally. Yeah, all that fits in the movement bucket. All good, right? Different intensities of cardiovascular training. At the end of the day, that's what it is, even if there's a weight component. But then you want that strength foundation, and that's what we're insisting on. You guys do with those 3 workouts a week. The majority of people really put all your eggs in that basket because that's going to move the needle the most. And then, of course, nutrition drives the fat loss we're wanting. But from a muscle building perspective, bone preservation, it's going to come from that deliberate resistance training with a structured plan that builds upon itself. So hopefully that rant lands. I know most of you guys we're preaching to the choir on that now, but good. Hopefully that was helpful. Anything else? Diane, go for it.
Yeah. Abby, I'm sorry, the sound is so loud. You mentioned doing the push-up against the wall.
If you can't do it at an incline or on a bench.
Because
So
I normally,
the higher you go, the easier it's going to be. And then you start working your way down from there.
okay, because I do them every day against the wall because I have some difficulty doing the regular push-up. because I
Yeah.
had an accident and I just nervous. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't keep doing them against the wall forever. I would start to
No.
try to progress. You know, you're not going to get any stronger or anything if you're just, you know, I don't know how long you've been doing them against the wall, but I would try to, you know, find something that's a little bit lower, a counter or something, and do them there. Or a high box at the gym or something. Because yeah, eventually you're gonna want to have to progress yourself in some form or fashion.
No.
The
Okay.
easiest way to progress at a commercial gym is a Smith bar machine. So
Yep.
a Smith machine, because you can clip it in just incrementally down like
Yep.
half a foot and do a push up from a slightly lower, still on an incline.
Yep.
That's if you have access to that. I know you go to the Y, so you should. Y downtown. So yeah, just find that Smith machine and bring it down a few notches from where you would normally push against the wall and try it. And if that's easy, then go a little bit further lower. And eventually you might be able to just go from a bench, which is only a foot or two off the floor, right? But yeah, I think that's a good way to go. Progress gradually, safely. Absolutely. Awesome. Okay, we'll make sure we get this replay out with that supporting document. But yeah, trust the process with what we program for you. But of course, if you have questions or you're not sure why we've done things a certain way, reach out to myself or Abby, and we can certainly give you our rationale and obviously adapt to your preferences to some degree as well. It's a give and take.
Yep.
All right. Okay. Going once, twice, 3 times. We'll leave it there then. Excellent. Have a good rest of your week. We'll see you guys next week on Woo Woo, the fun one.